Welcome to my place. My name is Goody, co-founder of that little cookie in the bag, that snack you didn't know you were waiting for, Goody's Granola. Today, I'm going to introduce you to a gentleman I met maybe 50 some odd years ago in college, Westmore College in Le Mars, Iowa. We reconnected on Facebook, and it's like we never left each other. It's unbelievable what we've been talking about. He's an artist. He's an excellent artist. Pilot, planes, helicopters, sculptures, oil paintings. I want to introduce to you Mr. Entrepreneur Artist Rick Beaucher. It's February. Air temperature 40 degrees, ocean temperature 36 to 39 degrees. Part 1 finds Rick and his dad in a crippled plane screaming towards the Atlantic Ocean 10 miles off the coast of Massachusetts. Rick's dad, due to his World War II flying experience, is handling their perilous situation in a calmly manner while Rick is about to be thrown into a nightmare of one of his biggest fears, flying and crashing into the ocean. Rick and his dad have both survived the crash. They are now in the clutches of the icy Atlantic without any life jackets, dressed in full winter attire. Help is on the way, but will it arrive in time to save them both before hypothermia sets in? Part 2 continues with the life and death struggle of father and son fighting to survive the frigid waters of the Atlantic Ocean.
We kept the gear up, of course. We kept the flaps up so the plane wouldn't nose over. And we skimmed in and probably didn't hit the forward impact till about 45 miles an hour. Got a little whiplash injury from that, but at that point, you're not noticing anything. So we're in the water, push the canopy back. I'm so relieved. Oh my God, we're going to be fine. The ESC rescue will be here. Let me tell you, airplanes are full of holes. This thing sank in 2 minutes. We had no flotation.
About winter time here.
Yeah, we're talking the depth of winter. Matter of fact, February 22nd, and you can look this up, is generally the coldest water temperature in Massachusetts Bay. So we timed this perfectly.
Hold on. Hold on.
So we had to jump in the water, and we had no flotation. And the shock of hitting 38-degree water, the pain is unbelievable. Just your brain just does a twist, and there ain't no getting out of this pool, So we're in the water and we see a lighthouse probably about 6 miles away, mine its light on the South Shore. Start swimming towards it because, you're not just going to sit there. And after about 5 minutes, I lost the use of my arms. Just the hypothermia works on the extremities. And my gloves flew off. And I'm looking at my hands, and they're the hands of a dead man. They are purple gray.
Oh my God.
No feeling in them. My wallet floated by. My father grabs my wallet. Meanwhile, he's hanging on to $3,000 worth of camera equipment. And we're arguing. I'm like, Dad, let the freaking camera stuff go. It's done. He goes, that's $3,000. So he let it go, but he grabbed my wallet. I'm like, Dad, why bother? So at that point, I'm using my legs, twisting my torso, trying to stay above. I kept going under, coming up. I had a nice heavy pair of Fry boots and a heavy leather car coat.
That'll keep you buoyant.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. And I just kept going out, going down, coming up, and just swallowing salt water like crazy. And just contemplating at the age of 23, when we think we're immortal, I'm contemplating my death. All right. And so we had 20 minutes in the water. And there came a point where I would go down and I'd go deeper and I'd struggle back up. And my main goal at this point was to stay away from my father. He might survive. I wasn't. And I'm not going to drag him down. And that there's a veil, there's this thin veil, invisible veil that keeps you from really understanding your finality, your death. It happens to other people. And, you can mentally think about it and all of that, but there is this thing about your ego or whatever it is that doesn't let that truly strike home. Well, I had 20 minutes and it hit me strong and hard. So I know what it will be when I do meet death. I'll it will be a familiar event for me. Um, anyway, what happened then was he screams when I come up this one time, here comes a boat. And it turns out there's a boat called the Golden Eye that was right underneath us when the prop blew. And that's why we didn't see him, or we would have circled down to him. And he cut his lines and came after us, and he threw a rope across me. And I was never more afraid than then because I could not reach it. And like just my nose is barely above the water. This big guy grabs me by the collar and the seat of my pants and hauls me in like the catch of the day. And I just flopped. I
Oh,
had, at that
Rick.
Yeah, at that point, I had no control over any of my body. I just lay there. And my father who's much heavier. I mean, you remember me, I was a skinny little guy. I had no insulation. My father had a gut, so he did a lot better. And we sat in the boat for like 2 minutes. All of a sudden, a Coast Guard helicopter shows up overhead, drops the basket. So we get the basket right up into the helicopter. And I'm like in shock. I'm just mentally and physically out of it. And I'm like, dude, you got to give me an airsick bag. I got gallons of salt water. He gives me his flight helmet bag. He says, do this. I said, no, man, I ain't throwing up in your helmet bag. So they flew us back to Beverly, where we originated from. And at that point, the hypothermia was transitioning. I was getting movement back in my arms and legs, convulsing, but able to move and control myself to a degree. And they dropped us off right by the pilot's lounge. And we go running in, dripping salt water. I get salt water spraying out of my freaking boots. And we go running in, and the guys are like, "What happened?" Says we crashed the plane. And they're like, "Oh yeah, sure." And I just pointed out to the helicopter, saying, "Yep." And
You you are one
we're like
lucky.
freezing, so cold. One of my buddies gives me a hot cup of coffee out of the machine, which in my convulsions, I spilled 90% of it on my hands, got myself some good second degree burns, which I couldn't feel. But thank you for the coffee. Drove us to the hospital. They packed us in heat packs. Doctor said, you guys had the ultimate stress test. The fact that you're alive, my body core temperature was down in the mid 90s. And I was crying and oof. See, even now I'm emotional. This is
Yeah,
it never goes away.
absolutely.
It
God,
never goes away.
I've had
Um,
car accidents like that. Bad,
yeah,
where I get chills when I think about it.
yeah. Well, I've had accidents, but they're instant, you know. This was 20 minutes. This was like imagine a car accident, that moment of crash lasting 20 minutes.
No,
There's a
I
lot
can't even
going
imagine
on.
being in that kind of water for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I tell people when I tell them, I say, listen, stick your hand in a bucket of ice water for 20 minutes and see what it feels like.
Well, the only thing I can relate to is when I was living in Colorado, went to the mountains in the winter, and they have these hot sulfur springs where, you take off all your clothes and you're sitting there naked in the middle of the winter, so
Yeah,
and then you jump into this river that's next to it.
yeah.
I mean, like I thought I was going to have a heart attack.
Was that? Yeah, yeah. Was that? I went to.
But I
I
can
did
get
it.
out. I got out real quick.
Yeah,
I didn't
you
have to
could get
spend,
out.
I don't know if I spent 20 seconds in there. Never mind
Yeah,
20 minutes. It was
yeah.
incredible.
It was at Glenwood Springs is where Doc Holliday died. I went down there and they have the hot springs, which is kind of cool.
Oh, it was
But
great.
anyway, we digress. We got out, got a ride back to the airport. And at that point, my first wife shows up And, I tell her what went on, and she says, all right, well, you're okay now. I'll see you at home. I'm going shopping. So a plan starts developing with me. That, all right, I just basically was baptized, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that this is going to end. I mean, in a clarity, I can still bring that up instantaneously. I can look out, like, looking out at my porch, and I can see deeper, and I can see richer, and I can hear clearer, than I ever do in my day-to-day life, because I can bring back that moment of death and then the incredible aliveness that followed it. But the death thing has sat on my shoulders for 49 years, you know?
It's an incredible, it's an amazing story, and
Yeah. Well, it's not a bad thing. It's not cruel. It's part of what happened. I was blessed and I was blessed that it occurred, because for 49 years, there is not a moment that I take for granted. There is not a day that I do not devote 100% to, you know? There is not a day that I will remember that time. I would not let that go, and I was going to change my life. I was going to live my life. So yeah, we went home, and um, I started thinking, all right, I need to make this worthwhile. I have such a short time available. I need to make this worthwhile. So I took the company, my father's company. He was great because he let me do all this. I put him to work. We were renting a little crappy place for a machine shop. I had him design and oversee the construction of a 14,000 square foot manufacturing facility on a nice piece of land up on Route 1 in Ipswich. We moved there. I established an office system, which we never had before. We hired a ton of people. And we went from about $350,000 a year to about $4 million a year within 2 years,
no kidding. Wow.
and with about a 25% profit rate.
That's pretty,
My
that's
accountant,
pretty, that's
yeah,
pretty damn
my,
good, man.
yeah, my accountant was bullshit, because he says, "What am I supposed to do with all this money?" I said, "Pay taxes on it. I'd rather be able to afford to pay taxes than not. So let's just do it." And um, suddenly we had money. I was making, we're talking, mid 70s,
Oh, that's
about
money. That
1977.
was money back then.
Yes, 1977. I'm making 70 grand a year, plus probably 20 grand in little side things that we would get. The wife had a Mercedes 250C in the garage. I had an XKE Jaguar, 4-bedroom house with a 3-car garage. Um, and so I had the American dream. I kept flying. I flew the next week right after we crashed. I was flying the next week. But in the process of this, I became a certified scuba diver because I still love the ocean. And so, I'd go diving. And then we bought a helicopter because, we needed something. I couldn't keep renting planes.
There it is.
So, yes. Now, people will recognize that because that is from the movie Jaws. The number on
That is your helicopter, and
that
that
is my
is
helicopter. We
from the
bought it
movie.
from, yeah, it was owned by F. Lee Bailey, a very famous lawyer at the time.
Absolutely, yeah, I remember.
And he called us and said, "I'm going to delay the sale for a couple of weeks. I just leased the helicopter to a movie company down in Martha's Vineyard." I said, "That's fine. That's fine." And it's the pontoons. We figured we're going down next. We're going to take fishing poles. We ain't freaking swimming again.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, the number on that helicopter is 98 PM, and people can research that. They'll find that we purchased it. It is for validation, but we flew that, and that was the hardest thing to ever learn to operate. You're using both feet and both hands. You have the cyclic in your right hand, which controls the way the rotors are pitched, you know, left, right, forward, or back.
Mhm.
You have a control on the left, which basically you pull up, it gives you lift, and it also is a throttle, like a motorcycle. So when you'd pull up on that, you had to give it throttle. And then the foot pedals are to aim the body of the helicopter. And every time you move one thing, it affects everything else. So it was that was a crazy thing to learn to fly. I looked like a drunken
What
grasshopper for
did
the
you
first
like
couple of
better?
weeks.
What did you like better, the plane or the helicopter?
I love the helicopter. Once I got the feel for it, I love that thing. We'd fly that to places. I'd land in fields and we'd go visit someone until we heard the cops coming. And I would jump in it and get the hell out of there. Uh, no, that thing was an absolute ball, but it was extremely expensive to own and operate. You know, that thing cost a fortune. So did that for a few years, and but I still wasn't happy. I was not. I hated my job. Yeah, I had all this money, had all of these. You know, I'd go diving. I do all. You know, go flying, but I'm a freaking artist. All right, being a successful businessman was not where it was at for me.
Okay, well, what I
And
want to do, I want to not regress. I want to progress. We'll go forward.
okay,
Um, I want to start showing a little bit of your artwork so people understand
okay,
where you're coming from. Now, is this a photograph?
yeah, that's the photograph. That's the Breakers. That's that place in that we're members of.
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Now, this is one of your pieces here.
Yeah, that's actually my latest one. That's I hadn't touched a paintbrush for 5 years. I was carving stone, and that's a good friend of mine, Jim, who had a. This was on an old iPhone. His son had taken a picture. He loved the photo, and he had me come over his house, and he said, "Oh, Rick, you got it. Can you paint me a portrait?" So that's a 30 by 40-inch portrait of my friend Jim
Now, this is a
that I
guy
did.
with the Nintendo. Is that
Yes, Jim actually he was a buyer for Macy's, and Nintendo came to America and made a proposal to the Macy's to produce them in the United States. They declined, but Jim talked to them and he put everything on the line. If it lost, he was dead broke, had nothing. And he made it work. And obviously, he has a gorgeous mansion on Palm Beach. He has a very successful restaurant on Long Island and a
what's the
condo
name?
and
You
a
know?
huge.
You know the name of the restaurant?
I'll have to get that for you because it's a pretty cool place. It's right on the beach, and every year he brings in 20 palm trees he plants on the beach, and they freaking die in the fall.
This on the South Shore, probably. South Shore or North Shore?
I believe it's the South Shore,
Right.
so I'll find that for you.
Okay.
But yeah, you know, so this was the kind of stuff I did. I'm a classically trained, classic eye artist, you know,
Did he
and he loved the piece.
he paid you for this, I hope, didn't
Yeah, yeah. Well, the funny thing is, he's a very good friend. So we were, you know, a portrait painting like that normally it would be like, you know, 12 to 16,000 dollars. You know, it takes me about a week. I mean, I would love to do them every week, but then I get bored and wouldn't want to be a painter anymore. But I told him, tell you what, give me $4,000 in $20 bills wrapped up in a paper bag and pass it to me over the table at a restaurant in public. I want it to look like a drug deal.
he?
And, and he did. So
Oh,
that way,
cool.
and it was just funny. It was a way to take the pressure, you know, take the any kind of discomfort out of it. So that was cool.
This is beautiful work. Now,
Thank you.
this thing,
This is Laundromat Madonna.
is this a
Um,
painting or a
that
photo?
is a painting.
It is a painting. Okay.
Yeah. I always worked in oils. And this was done during the period of poverty. Um, what happened, you know, and we'll get into that, but this was a time when I was on welfare. We had WIC coupons, women and
Well, okay,
infant
you're saying you're
care.
on welfare. What happened to put you on welfare? Was,
Well, um, I
I
told
mean,
you
you went from all of this money to nothing.
well, what I did was in 1980, I got divorced. I won't go into details, but it was I was in a loveless marriage, had two kids, and things occurred that just made it worthwhile to leave. So I got divorced. In the divorce, I gave my wife everything that we had, but I still had my job. I got an apartment in Newburyport, right on the river, and I was still making, good money at Micromech. Uh, but things even there started getting kind of very weird. My father was, saying, "Oh, going back and forth about you should be married." Da, da, da. Finally, I just, I think I've had enough. And on a hot August day, I went into his office and I gave him the keys to the company car. I gave him all the credit cards, and I found myself on Route 1, sweating my ass off with my thumb stuck out because now I had no car. And hitchhiked up to Newburyport. Um, and I had like $4,000 in the bank, and that was it. I had no job, and I had no inclination of who the hell I was. I had just buried myself with all of these things I had done. Um, so I was scared to death and excited. Um, so I was there and it's funny because my friends at that point that I had my best friends were guys that worked for me. When I quit the company, they started showing up at my apartment, and just had a great time. And the funny thing is, I know it's a cliche, but the secretary, Marilyn, she started showing up, and we had always been great friends. Well, we ended up getting entangled, you know? And she, after about a month, she says, I'm quitting the company. I can't, it's horrible there now. She says, I'm going back to Cleveland. And I said, hey, you mind if I tag along? So, got a U-Haul, threw what I had for furniture in there, and drove to Cleveland with no plan, no prospects. We stayed at her brother's house for about a week till I could find an apartment in Paynesville. Great name, I love it. Paynesville, Ohio, and got unemployment. I remember going to the unemployment office. This is 1980. And this black lady took care of me at the unemployment office and said, where do you come from, honey? I said, I came from Boston. And, I'm trying to find a job around here. She goes, honey, if I were you, I would get back in my car and I would drive back to Boston because there is no work around here. Oh, okay. So I spent about a month or two. It was September, but it was nice. And just chilled out, hanging at the beach. And then I saw an ad in the paper for commercial artist, downtown Cleveland. So I rushed home, and I was still in shorts, stinking of suntan oil, and went to May Company downtown. And I said, "Oh, are you here for the commercial, the visual merchandising job?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I think it was commercial. Yeah, that's it. Just here's the room." I go in this room, and there's all these people, men and women, dressed to the nines with professional portfolio cases and shit. I got a whole bunch of shit rolled up under my arm, and so they called me in, and I met my Bob Morgan, and I remember one of the first things he says, so how's the beach? I I said it was great, and I'm sorry. I said, but I saw this was the last day, and I just had to try it. It's all right, no worries, no worries. So he said, let's talk about your background. So I told him the things I could do, mechanically, and my design skills and the stuff I had done. And he said, this is an entry level position. I think you're overqualified. And I said, Mr. Morgan, please don't put that on me. I am not overqualified, but I am. If you want to motivate an employee who will do 100%, I'm your guy. I desperately need to find something like this in my life. And and we went through the interview. He was smiling and got a call in, and I left. I said, "Thank you very much." I knew I had the job. He called a week later. We get a call, Bob Morgan. He says, Rick, just want to let you know you have the job. You're starting Monday.
Oh,
And I'm like, I have to ask you, how did I get the job? He said, everybody else was kind of the same. He said, and I had this crazy son of a bitch walk in off the beach with a roll of paper and this incredible passion. And I said, this guy's insane. He will fit right in.
I hear it. Now, how did this painting come about then?
This painting was, I stayed, very short thing. I stayed with May Company for a year, got several raises, got my private parking place. Suddenly I'm back in an office again. My future is assured. So I gave my letter of recommendation. I had completed this. I had done it. And it was time for new experiences. My life was nothing but experience now. So moved back to Newburyport with Marilyn in tow and couldn't find a job. So I had some money I had put aside. I paid a few months rent and I opened up an art gallery on State Street and ran out of money. So I went to the welfare office. I had to learn what it was to be poor, how to be poor. I had no clue. And they told me, what's involved and what was available to me, food stamps, things like that. Perfect timing. Marilyn got pregnant. And we lived literally hand to mouth. The gallery was basically paying the rent and the insurance and the utilities. And we struggled there for over a year. My baby was born in the clinic. And we got WIC coupons, which was great. Our heating oil in the winter was provided by John F. Kennedy Jr., who
No.
had a magazine, George.
Yeah,
And
George.
he took the profits from this magazine and he put together a program to supply heating oil to the needy.
Wow.
You
I
know,
don't know if anybody really knew about that. That's
no, I
the
mean
first I've ever heard of it.
I am so pissed at him for fucking dying for flying a plane when he shouldn't have been, because it was unreal the things that he did. But in the process of this, I was still painting and painting and painting, and we used to have to walk, 6 blocks down to this laundromat. And my daughter was in hand-me-down clothes, and I got this photo, and it is it expresses that time
Is this
vividly.
your daughter in there?
That's my wife and my little daughter,
Wow.
Desiree.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We scrounged for quarters. I mean, it was a brutal time. So that to me is a very intense painting, you know.
It's beautiful. It's just
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, here we go.
So yeah, and that's Marilyn and Desiree years later, you
Beautiful
know.
women, both
So
beautiful women. Look at them. Wow.
yeah, well, I have she was a model. She worked when we moved to Florida, she ended up becoming a model. And so yeah, I have a gorgeous painting of my ex and my daughter.
This is another X.
That's Marilyn. That was the third. And yes, eventually the third. But she stuck with me for 25 years. She took the ride for a long time. But yeah, that painting was inspired by
Oh, let me go
the
back here.
Sergeant. That painting was inspired by the work of John Singer Sargent, who used to do dark backgrounds and stuff. And doing one in black, that's a study in black, it's so difficult to pull that off, to make her arm look like it's tucked behind her back and she's not a freaking amputee, and Desiree's hands. I mean, that was a tough piece of work.
Rick, this is so beautiful. All of this
Thank
stuff
you.
is beautiful.
Thank you.
You blossomed. It's beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Now, this is another medium that you do is
Yes,
sculpture.
that is Carrara marble, and you have a picture of the blank stone that came from,
Yeah, I hope
which
I
is,
put it out. I don't know if I put it
yeah,
out. If not, it'll
very,
be at the
very
end.
intimidating. But this was my first marble. I had worked, as you know, in clay. I'd worked in wood and in metal. And it was very intimidating, but my final wife, the third, bought me a hammer and chisel set. The stone sat in my yard for like 6 months, intimidating me every day.
Hold on one second. I want to make sure I know. Is this the second or the third?
That's the second.
Okay, this is the second.
That's the second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
She get credit for hanging around with me, but she don't get credit for the finale.
did she like take everything again?
I gave her everything. I gave her it. She had gone through she had gone through welfare. She had gone through so much with me. And we had been able to accumulate when we got divorced, we had two cars, we had a beautiful new home, money in the bank, things were good. And I was 55.
Do you
And
do you speak with her or and your daughter?
I don't speak with the ex-wife because she kind of manipulated the whole thing. And it just got nasty. So yeah, but my daughter, yeah, we have a wonderful relationship.
That's great. Fantastic.
Yeah, I have three daughters, and my relationship with them is just wonderful,
They're both
just wonderful.
they're both beautiful. Both beautiful.
Yes,
Great, great.
yes, yeah. My daughter, she's gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous. You know,
How old is she
um,
now?
she is 42, and she is a RN with who is also a surgical tech and LPN, and she works at a plastic surgery
Did
center.
any of your children get any of your artistic genes?
Um, Actually, Desiree has a great deal of creativity, and she brings it into her job. You
Okay.
know, uh, my middle daughter Rebecca, who looks like me, God help her, with curly hair and everything. Um, she is also very creative, and none of them pursued the arts, but they all took a very creative, very courageous nature to what they were doing in their lives, and they're all three are very successful.
What do they think? Well, let me ask, what does your family think of your artwork now?
They love the artwork. They respect what I have gone through. Um, don't some a lot of my family don't understand why I would continually walk away from success. I remember my first wife, my father-in-law, Charlie, loved him. Great guy. Don't know how he ever gave birth to that bitch. But anyway, I saw him after the divorce. Saw him after the divorce, and he said, Rick, I can understand you leaving my daughter. He goes, I will never understand you leaving that business and walking away from all that. He goes, that was crazy. Charlie, no worries.
Well, yeah, you had enough. You had enough.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. So
okay.
yeah, these are all Carrera marble, and each one is it's a learning process, how these things work, how what tools to use, A third of your time you're spending just worrying about the stone you're removing because there's no putting it back, you know? And so it's a process. That's a process. That's the one I always wanted to do it. It's a bit sophomoric, but that's the sculptor who created himself and is sculpting these figures.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
they're incomplete. And I said the only problem is it looks like he's freaking killing
Yeah.
him.
Let me ask you a question of uh in your art, who did gave you what artist gave you inspiration and
Well, as a young guy, as a child, I was never into sports. I was enamored by Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. Just absolutely fascinated. And they were the first books I read with their stories. Um, and in the process of my life, I've been fortunate that I was able to go to the Louvre and place my hands on the stone being that Michelangelo carved. And I was able to go to Milan and spend a half hour alone viewing the Last Supper after they pulled all the repaints off, and I just see the ghost of the purest form of what Da Vinci created, and standing in a place that he stood. So yeah, those were my major input. Then later on, John Singer Sargent, Claude Monet. I spent hundreds of hours at the Boston Museum of Art. Hundreds of hours. This is a cool piece. You know, I've always been restless. This is carved from a seashell using a Dremel and magnification.
Great.
You know, and that's for my love, Lois, my third and final wife.
I hope so, man. I
And
really
I love this so much that I cast that one in gold for her. Probably $2,000 worth of gold.
beautiful.
So she has that in gold as well.
Okay.
That is my grandson.
Now
You
these,
saw a video of a young man pitching for Villanova. This is him.
yes,
This
I
is my
saw that. That was amazing.
Yes, this is
Congratulations,
my
by the way.
grandson Ryan. And this sold Megan Candler Gallery in Vero Beach. This sold in a week, and then I had to do a complimentary piece. So I did one of my daughter Desiree at
I
the
think
beach.
I think I have those coming up. But was
Yeah.
this taken from a photograph? I know it's not a
Uh,
photograph.
yeah, it's taken from a photo, but what you do when you work from a photo is you don't copy the photo. You take it in, um, and then you create from that. So it actually, if you saw the photo, it's better than the photo.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
What is something like this so far in the gallery?
That kind of piece, that's a small one. That's 16 by 20. Right now, that'd probably be about 8,000.
It's like an amazing thing. It's like painters like
Well, you know,
I'm
the
more
problem is
artists.
it's
They're
the
just so
style
beautiful.
now is modernist, you know.
Oh, I
Uh,
know.
Jackson Pollock drop cloth art because it goes with a couch.
Is that
That is my oldest, Diane, who was in the sunglasses in that video, and my youngest, Desiree, at the beach.
it's like they look like it's just amazing what you did. Um,
Thank you. I love painting water.
well, I got some more stuff coming. Is that
Yeah.
your other granddaughter?
No, I got into doing kids on the beach. These things sold like hotcakes. All right. And I can crank one of them out in like 3 days. And that back in the 90s, I was making like 2,500 to $3,000 each off of these things.
Well, and
But
you
I
had
love,
practice cranking them out in Iowa, so
yeah,
that
yeah,
gave you a lot of practice.
yeah. And I love painting children because they don't have the mask that adults wear, you know, and just the way they stand, the way they move, the way they look.
They're free. They're free.
Yes,
You know, it's like
free. Yeah.
there is no inhibit. Most of the times, there's no inhibitions.
No, no. So yeah, just yeah. I mean, these things, like I say, I'd go to the beach, you know. I'm glad they didn't bust me for being a predator or something, you know.
Well, I actually I take a lot of pictures. I show you some, but
Yeah,
when I'm in the park, I love to take pictures of children,
yeah,
sports, some action stuff, and
yes,
they're great. It's just great.
yes, yeah. I mean, look at the hands. This is Sandy hands, you know, and she got them stretched out because my hands are dirty. I mean, just wonderful. The movement.
I love the shadow and the over here. I mean, you just it's complete. I don't know what else you would add to this stuff.
Yeah, they're not separate.
This
This
actually
is
looks like I have pictures I took of this stuff.
yeah. This is La Mer 1. La Mer in French means the ocean. You got to have a little bit of pretension when you do this stuff, you know. This thing sold like in the first week at the gallery. That is 3.5 feet by about 5.5 feet.
Wow,
And that thing, boom, just sold. That was 8 grand.
beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah,
Now here you are in your gallery, I guess, right?
that's me carving the sign for the gallery. Yeah, had to do a design, and you know, so there's the sculptor. You know.
Now we're going into your house. You mind showing this stuff?
No, no, this is my 1924 house in West Palm Beach, about 3 blocks from the Intercoastal. My wife and I restored this in its entirety. There's my 24-year-old Miata in the
I told you
driveway
I
that
used to
I,
sell them in Brooklyn when they first came out.
yeah, I love that thing's 24 years old. They only made 3,000. I've done a full, me, painted it, restoration, the whole bit. But the door of that house is actually 100-year-old aged cypress that was in the ceiling. They had painted the ceiling pink. Well, I replaced the cypress ceiling in there, and I used the wood to create this door. And you can't
You made
duplicate
this
that.
store. You made
I
this.
made that door, yes. And I did the walkway. I did the copper hood over above. That's where I'm sitting right. I'm sitting in here right now, man.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's the
This
inside of
is
the
all
door.
you,
That's the
this
site.
is all your work.
Yes. Yeah, the metal work you see, the floor, the cypress ceiling, that's all me,
You are a
all me.
man of many, many, many
That is
talents.
inside. Now that's in my Porsche. That's right behind me. That is also made from the 100-year-old cypress. And yeah, so built that. And the metalwork in it is from an old rusty magazine rack that I fished out of the ocean on Palm
It's
Beach.
like up here on the top, like this
That
by
little cross thing, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's mine, man. This now the artwork you see in there, that's Lois. That's my wife. My
She
wife who
did this?
was
She did this
that is
stuff?
the work of my of Lois Beaucher. All those paintings.
Was she an artist when you met her?
No, Lois was a high-end Manhattan lawyer making over $500,000 a year and retired and bought a fixer-upper in Palm Beach. Um, and I had just finished a project on Nantucket where the guy begged me to stay for the summer and help him. And I said, no, so I had to go back. I was the project manager designer for Lois's house. She was married at the time. And we spent 7 months, became very, very good friends. I'm very professional because as a designer, you're always working with women. So I was always very professional in this. We became great friends, but through the process of it, she just found her relationship to be empty. It was just about the money. So she came after me for like 3 months, and I was just saying no, no, no. And I said, you can't give up. You spent your life trying to get this. You have a house on Palm Beach. And she said, no, you don't understand. That's nothing. And I knew what she was talking about because that's where I was at.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I'm at work. At that point, I was installing cabinets for a super high-end cabinet company. We did like 200 to $1 million projects, just the cabinets alone. I get a phone call. She says, I'm at your house sitting on your front stoop. I'll see you when you get home.
She was
And
stalking you. She was
yeah, and I had a hard time finishing my day. My buddy Ed's like, "What's the matter, man?" I said, "I don't know. I don't know."
I don't know if you
And
mentioned it before. I just want to regress it. People used to take you to Italy for marble work, to pick out
as
marble.
a designer, yes, in working as a designer and project manager on Palm Beach, I would do interior design, everything. And I had a client who had an oceanfront property on Palm Beach, and he said, "Listen, I have to close up my um, apartment in Milan, and I'd like you to come and help select what we keep and what we just get rid of because it's so expensive to ship." And I said, "All right." He says, "Buy your plane ticket and don't bring any money." So all right. So yeah, I went to Milan and we did that, and we got to that's where he surprised me. He says, "Listen, you have 2 weeks here. We're going to start off just in the city," and we explored the city. That's where I got to see the Last Supper, which is located in Milan. And then he says, "All right, and we have another project." He says, "You know what my furniture like. You know what my house is like," because what he had done is his wife was in Milan, and he and I had redesigned the entire interior of his house, including all the colors. And she had come back for a visit, and she fell in love with it. And then she had to go back to Milan. So this was kind of like payback for me, a reward. So he said, "Our next stop is Bellagio. You have to help me select some antique Murano glass." No, that was Venice. So we went to Venice and stayed in Venice, went to Burano and Murano, and I met a guy, Pier Angelo, who is a fabric designer. Matter of fact, George Bush, the older, and Bill Clinton both wore ties designed by this guy at their inaugurations. All
Very.
right. And he introduced me to a guy, and I showed them my portfolio, and they wanted me to do a show in Venice. But I just couldn't see coming up with the money to make it work. So I didn't
Well,
bother.
you have a living quite a life. You did
Yeah.
all this work too, huh?
Yeah. So anyway, from there we went, he says, all right, we're going to Bellagio to a gallery to pick out some work. So I spent 4 days in Bellagio with them. And then we finished off with 4 days in Paris, where I got to go to the Louvre and see the overplayed Mona Lisa, and just some incredible work, and see the work of Michelangelo, and just incredible, incredible stuff. And of course, it rained there, and it has to be raining in Paris to be right. And we rode bicycles everywhere. This photo is the kitchen that Lois and I built. And we built every bit of that you see, we built. That was down to just pure studs. We did the tin ceiling. We built all the cabinets. I ran all the electrics. We did the countertops. We did the flooring. We did the tile backsplashes. Everything was
Where
designed.
did you have the equipment to build it? You have like a
I
shop?
have I have a 200 square foot space that I call my studio, that really is just housing tools. I have enough from my studio. I could build a house.
Wow.
I have woodworking equipment. I have welding equipment. I have masonry equipment. I have kilns for, doing gold and silver work. Um, you know, uh, Everything, hammer and chisel, the whole bit.
It's amazing. This is another picture of the kitchen.
Yeah, that's the kitchen. I just recently replaced the oven, the stove, and they put in a
Oh,
professional range hood.
you didn't build the ovens, did you?
No, no, no.
Okay,
But
okay.
I had to install it.
Oh,
I buy them from Home Depot, and they come to install it. And this is the third thing that I had them do to be installed. They bring it in and they look at the L. I said, we can't install it. They leave it in the floor. So I had to complete the installation, do the gas hookup, move the electrics, all of that. They had the same thing with the washer and dryer. They brought it in. The guy's kinking the gas line, trying to take it off. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Did it myself. Brought in the refrigerator. They didn't know how to get it through the front door. Lois and I took it apart, dragged it through the house, installed the refrigerator, you know?
I got a dishwasher from what did I get from Best Buy, and
Yeah,
they installed it.
yeah,
They never ground it. I was getting shocks like
yeah.
crazy. I mean, finally, the building I live in, they sent over an electrician to take care of it. But
Well, they hire these idiots that don't know
how
what,
can you install this thing and not ground it? They're
yeah, they
crazy.
hire guys that are clueless. That's my
Don't
pool.
tell me you built the pool.
No, we didn't build a pool, but the Mexican tile we did. And then
Okay.
there was
What about
a
the wood? Did
most,
you put the wood in the deck?
oh yeah, we built a deck, and I did the fence out back, and there was a mosaic tile on that round spa
Right.
that Lois and my daughter set all these broken tiles that we had, and then I just grouted them in.
Oh my God. Look at
And
this.
that's my studio. That's my 200 square foot tool shed. And I did the tile roof that you see on there, and you can see a little bit of the gazebo I built on the left of that.
Right.
And there's a star type thing on the side of the studio.
Yeah, right. Right. I
That's a
get
copper
it.
and ceramic piece that I built for there. I had to build the window
Did you plant
went in
did you
there.
plant those trees?
Yes, we did the landscaping. Yeah, we did all the landscaping was
Oh my
us.
goodness, I love it. It's great. Oh my, okay.
That is my master bathroom. That is a 12 by 12-foot room. I get so sick of going to these tiny little freaking bathrooms. So this is a monster. There's a slipper tub right there in the bottom left that you can
I'm going
sit
to send you a
open.
picture of my bathroom.
Yeah, but there's a slipper tub. There's a shower that's 4 by 4 inside that we can both go in and have fun and shower. marble floors, marble countertop. I did the light
Yeah,
fixtures,
you
installed
cut
heavy.
you cut the marble. You did all of that. You
I did a lot of the marble work, yeah. Not on this one. This one, the floor was in. So the people before me had done a lot of body work. And when
okay?
I bought this house, this room had the marble floor and the marble shower, but it didn't have any cabinets. They had a pedestal sink. So you walked into this 12 by 12-foot room and there was no place to put your damn toothbrush.
Okay, let's see. Next up,
Oh, that's my baby Jody.
yes,
That's a
it is.
14-year-old Havanese.
Wow.
She my girl. And you see the little details I put in the flooring, the little Mexican tile details under the
Yeah.
window. That's everywhere.
Well, that's all the slides that I have here. I mean, I got a ton more
Yeah,
slides.
you get tons more.
Well, what we're going to do is when we edit this and we do after this thing is finished,
Yeah,
before the credits or while the credits are running, we're going to be showing all more slides
yeah.
work. Uh,
Okay.
where I'm very, very proud to have known you back in the
Yeah.
day. We go,
We had we had a
we
great
go way
time.
back. We go way back.
We go way back, dude. And you're like me. You're an entrepreneur. You've been an adventurer. Very diverse life. Um, and the thing is, you can relate to what I am about to say that, a lot of my friends, oh, you had such a romantic life. It was so wonderful and da da da. Yeah, yes, I had a house on the ocean, all right, but I was on freaking welfare. I have had, 2 a.m. in the morning, my future wife's head asleep with her head in my lap. We could afford to split a hamburger, all right, and that was it. And I had enough money to maybe get us to where we were going. So along with all of these incredible highs, I had to face every fear that I possibly had.
Well, you
And
know what
so,
you had though, Rick? You stuck with your passion. I kind of taken a different path. Like I like I think I explained this to you, but I like the startup of stuff, the adventure of creating and watching it grow. And
yes,
then it gets to be kind of a drudgery after a while.
right, yes, yep,
It's like with our granola. We started. I mean, I just see things. I go, let's. My son was a personal trainer, and
yeah,
he was working in the summertime up on the Upper West Side. He was a track guy. He do the 2 and the 400.
yeah,
And it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. He called me and says, I'm not leaving yet. I have to do this and I have to close up. And I said, I'm going to come and pick you up. And I went up there and I was eating granola and I was making jelly and stuff. And I saw this great recipe for granola and I ripped it out.
yeah,
And I made this granola and took it over to my sister's house for a holiday. And I'm watching all of these people sitting in the eating in the kitchen, and they're all picking on this stuff and loving this stuff.
yeah,
And go, wow, this might be a great thing. However, the recipe that I took is not what I have now. I have tweaked it. It took me years of, because I didn't come from a culinary world,
right,
and it was too wet. It was like sludge.
yeah,
Finally, it took me maybe 5 or 6 years, and I was selling the product as I was going.
right,
This is the longest thing that I stuck with of something
yeah,
I started, and it's taken off now. I showed you we got the new bags, and we're very proud
yeah.
of,
And
of,
that is the challenge, and not being fearless. Courage is being afraid and still going on with it. You know, that's
well,
what courage is.
I meet a lot of people in my journeys. That's how I get people to come on the podcast.
Right,
But when I deliver stuff at Whole Foods, sometimes at 5, 6 in the morning, this
yeah,
past Friday night, I was there at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night delivering stuff.
yeah,
And you see all of these people fixing the store. The store opens up, say, 7, 8. Boxes and shelves are being stocked. And
yes,
they're like the heart and soul of this business. And
yes,
people don't understand this. They kind of walk by them while they're shopping. You know, they're like part of the scenery.
Hmm.
Um, I get friendly with these people, and a lot of these young people, they have things that they want to do besides working and receiving. I mean, they're getting benefits and they got a decent salary, but
Yes.
some of them are rappers, they're musicians, they're artists,
Yeah.
and some of the biggest fears that they have is they don't think that they're ready, or they're afraid that people is not going to like their work.
Yeah.
And I like that. There are certain things that I tell them, you know, just say, fuck it. If they don't like it, that's their problem. And you know,
Yeah.
you live this almost the same life. You stuck with what you felt, and
Well, and
it's a terrific thing. It's a great
yeah.
thing.
Well, that's where I was lucky. You know, if that didn't happen 49 years ago, I wouldn't know what I'm facing, you know, in a handful of years in the future. Um,
I really believe though you would have pursued, man. I saw it in college, and
yeah,
you didn't have
maybe.
life-threatening experiences in college. Not that I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. It might have taken a while longer, you know, and I might have settled for one of the other successes I had. You know, my contracting business in Newburyport, I had a year and a half waiting list, you know, house on the ocean. And it was on my landlord, I was renting it, but it was a rent to buy, costing me $1,000 a month back in the late 70s. I mean, early 80s. Um, and it was golden. I mean, I was restoring antique homes, having a great time. So I left some dream jobs because, yeah, you know, and I
Well, you
maybe would
went
have,
like there's like artists. I was an actor for many, many years.
right.
And I was good. I got a little kind of lackadaisical as I got older.
Yeah,
I didn't really stick with the passion that I felt with it because I just when I things just popped into my life, I said, "Well, that's a great fucking idea." I
right,
mean, my ex-wife and I had a theater in Manhattan. Then we went into uh, leather. I had 20 people working for me in the leather business.
right. Yeah. Well,
It,
that's it. Life is about, it isn't about the stuff, you know? I wouldn't trade places with any of my wealthy clients. Their lives are so complicated by the crap that surrounds them that they own. I wouldn't trade places with them. Life is about experience. It's about adventure.
absolutely, yeah.
Amongst the other things that I've enjoyed, I've always enjoyed the culture of Japan. And so one of the things I studied was sword making. So this is one of my Japanese swords.
You
These
made
are
it?
made, I made this. It is inlaid with recycled ivory, correct? Says Bushido, which is the way of the samurai, and silver, all right, and finished in lacquer. And this was done with no tools. And what this is the wakizashi. This is a handmade sword, razor sharp,
The samurai sword, like, isn't it?
samurai sword. I have three of them. I have the short tanto. I have this one, which is the mid sword. And see the way this closes? See?
Wow.
And this thing, I'd rather have this in my hand than a freaking gun if someone comes in the house because I'm going to take his head off.
Absolutely.
But
They don't shoot you
that's,
first.
yeah. So that's the kind of, you know, like you, just diverse things catch my eye. And I never worried about being successful because I always knew I would be. I always had absolute total faith and belief in myself.
Well, so have I. And
Yeah.
it's I'm amazed that I go into Whole Foods and my name, Goody, is on the shelf.
Yeah.
Goody.
That's a kick, man. How many people get that kick?
Yeah,
How many people get to see
it's
their
an
name
amazing
beyond their
thing.
little circle?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rick, this has been a terrific conversation with you. I
Thank you.
sent you granola. I hope you let me know what you think about it when you get
Yeah.
it.
Looking forward to it.
Uh, yeah, so
Yeah.
I
It's
said
been fun.
I said
This is one of my few vices, man.
watches. See,
Yeah. The Rolex.
I've never been into watches. I've never really
Well,
been into jewelry. Kind of
man,
watches I used to like. I used to like pocket watches.
I loved pocket watches. I had them all as a kid. I had them, and growing up, when I was in work contracting, I wore them because I didn't want to wear anything on my wrist with the power tools. but I always wanted Rolexes, so I got a couple, and I looked, and wanting it was one thing. Once I had it, I was like, it's a watch. And let me just tell you, my buddy who lives on the ocean on Palm Beach, gazillionaire, he has a $20 Casio and drives a 16-year-old Lexus.
Yeah,
All
look,
right.
it's the material stuff. When I was selling cars, I always said, don't fall in love with a car.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that keep people from saving money is
Yeah.
they're leasing cars, and
Ah,
not that I'm knocking it. I mean,
no, yeah, yeah.
between buying a car, paying it off, insurance and maintenance, I mean,
And
it
it's ultimately worth nothing.
eats into your money.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, growing up, money was not the most important thing to me. But as
Right.
you get to be our age,
Yeah.
you need the money.
Got to have the money.
So
That's
I'm
where
trying to do that now at
you're
my,
getting there, man.
but we're
You're
getting
getting
slowly
there.
but surely, slowly but
Hey,
surely.
you had a great month, you
Yeah,
know.
unbelievable.
The few things that I have, like the house, see, we use it, we live in it. The Miata, I got that for short money, man, and did a restoration, had a great time with it. But it's a car. I just put a touch screen in it, man. It took me 3 freaking days to figure that crap out.
Anyway, Rick, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for your story.
My
It
pleasure.
it should it's very inspiring. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is.
Well, people, you gotta pursue the dream. Don't hurt yourself in the process, but you just can't give up, man.
And listen, if you fall, people have to know if you crash, you get out of it and you get back up on your feet. I've crashed a few times in my life.
Yeah, part of the process, part of the learning.
It's all part of learning, and you do learn
Yeah,
from it. But you go and you don't even let it bother you after all. It doesn't even bother you.
you survive.
It is what it is.
Yeah,
Peace out, love. I'm glad you're happily married. You do great work. Just don't change. Keep
you got
keep,
it.
keep on trucking, brother.
All right, take care, my friend.
All right. Peace
Bye-bye.
out.